This is a setup demonstration for the Geek Vape Aegis Boost pod system. Inside the box, in addition to the device itself, you'll find a box of some extras, which are going to include a spare coil that is a little different than the one that comes pre-installed, but we'll get into that in a moment, as well as a charging cable for recharging your device. And one final option, you have a spare mouthpiece in case you don't care for the one that comes pre-installed, as well as a small tool that can be helpful when it comes time to change your coils, which we'll demonstrate in a moment here. Also, underneath the foam insert tray, you'll have a user manual that will give you all the information you need as well. Let's take a look at the device itself. The Boost has an internal 1,400 milliamp hour battery, which can be recharged via micro USB cable. The charge port is located on the side face underneath a little dust cover plug. This device is designed to be shock resistant, water resistant, and dust resistant. So it's really kind of designed to take a licking and keep on ticking, as they say. On the front face here, you have your fire button, which you'll need to use to turn the device on or off, and your up and down buttons for adjusting the output. To turn the device on or off, you'll give the fire button 5 quick clicks. When you first remove it from the box, it's going to be in the off position, so you'll need to turn it on before you can do anything with it. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks. It was in the on position, but now it's off, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks, and it'll power on. And it'll display your battery life remaining, any atomizer that's currently attached, resistance, and the current output it's set to. This is currently set to 9.5 watts. And then as well as in the upper left-hand corner, it's really tiny, maybe hard to see, it'll have your puff counter, which is currently sitting at 0. Also on the front face, up here on the pod itself, you'll notice you've got this little wheel here with some knurling on it, and let's see if I can get the light to catch. There we go. As I turn it, you can open or restrict your airflow. You can customize that to your preference for the kind of draw style you prefer. At the very top here, we have a little dust cover that you can remove, and that exposes the mouthpiece section. If you wanted to swap out the one that comes pre-installed for the backup, all you do is pull it right off, and it's got this little center part that goes inside when you want to press it in to install it. We'll replace that little dust cap that clicks into place. To remove the pod to install or change a coil, all you have to do is on the back side here, you have this little tab here that says press. You'll grab hold of the device, press onto that with your thumb, and press up, and it will lift away. The way the pod attaches, there's a notch that protrudes on the front face from the front of the pod, and inside the body of the device, there's a little receptacle for that. So when you're putting the pod back into place, you want to take that front face where the airflow wheel is and set that in place first so that that notch can sit in its groove, and then it will click into place and be attached securely. So once again, to remove the pod, press and push up on that tab on the back, and that will release. And to replace, the side with the airflow wheel goes in first at a bit of an angle and clicks into place. Talking about adjusting the output, you'll want to pay attention to whichever coil you're using, the wattage rating stamped on it. Let's take one coil to take a look at to start with. On the bottom face of the coil, it might be a little difficult to see on camera here, but there is stamped notification of the resistance of the coil and the recommended wattage to use while vaping it. You'll want to stick within that wattage range. There's a 0.4 ohm coil that's rated for 25 to 33 watts, and a 0.6 ohm coil that is actually rated instead for 15 to 25 watts. We generally recommend for folks to try both coils that come with a kit out and see which one they prefer before purchasing extras, but if you already kind of know what kind of output you like, you might be able to make that determination right away. When it comes time for installing the coil, Easiest way to do that is to either manually prime it by applying liquid directly to the cotton wicking ports before inserting it into the pod, or you can simply insert the coil into the pod. With this, it's a press-fit style coil, and you'll notice that on the bottom here, you've got 2 flat sides and 2 rounded sides. And on the bottom of your pod, the coil itself, where the coil goes in, has that shape to it as well. So all you have to do is insert the coil and make sure that the collar of the coil is lined up with the shape of the bottom of the pod and press firmly. You want to make sure it's fully seated in there. If you've already primed your coil, you can just fill your pod and you're ready to go. Otherwise, you'll want to fill your pod and give it about 5 to 10 minutes to saturate before starting to use the device. How do you fill the pod? Well, that's going to be really easy, and it's something you don't even have to remove the device or the pod from the device to be able to do. So let's go ahead and reinsert the pod, and I'll demonstrate that. You'll take your bottle of liquid. This is empty just for demonstration purposes. And right above where you've got your airflow control wheel, right on top of the pod, there's a little silicone seal. You go ahead and grab the flap that's closer to the airflow wheel and lift that up, and that exposes your fill port. And then all you have to do is insert the nozzle of your bottle into that fill port and squeeze to fill. Once it's full, just press the seal back into place. If you've already primed your coil, you're ready to go. If you need to let it saturate, make sure to give it about 5 to 10 minutes. The only time you need to worry about priming a coil is when you're first installing it. If you're refilling for a second or third or however many pod fills off of that coil, you don't have to wait before you can use it after refilling. When the coil starts to taste burnt, which is the best indicator to know it's time to change it, you just remove the pod and pull out the coil. There's not a whole lot of room to grab it, so if you have a hard time tugging the coil out without it, you'll want to make use of that little tool I mentioned earlier that comes included. It's got a stamp on one end, so you can attach it to your keyring to always have it on you if you'd like. And then you'll want to go from the side so that it can grasp on the rounded edges of the coil and tug it right on up and out, like so. And then you grab your new coil and do everything you need to do to get it ready. That's about everything you need to know for setting up the Geek Vape Aegis Boost pod system. Happy vaping!